Hi everyone, my name is Darren and welcome back to Coffee Hammer. Are you new to Warhammer Age of Sigmar? Or maybe you've heard about the exciting new Spearhead format and you're wondering where to start. Browsing online or in a hobby store can be overwhelming with all the different armies to choose from. So today I'm going to be breaking down my top 3 recommendations for complete beginners, helping you pick the perfect starting point to dive into the amazing game that is Age of Sigmar. Before we jump into the recommendations, what makes a good Spearhead army for a beginner? Here are the criteria I'll be basing these recommendations on. Ease of assembly and painting. Are the models straightforward to put together and paint? Gameplay and rules. Is the army playstyle easy to grasp and understand in the first few games? The fun factor. Does the army offer satisfying experience to control and play? And the lore appeal. Does the aesthetics and story of the army draw you in? In other words, do you think the army is cool or not? First up, in no particular order, we have the incredible Seraphon. Ancient cosmic powered dino lizards guided by floating toad wizards, all dedicated to the inscrutable great plan to defend the mortal realms from chaos. They are a force of pure primal power who often ally with other forces of order like Sigmar's Stormcast Eternals, but only if it serves the great plan. Their methods can be extreme, and they don't value mortal lives if it means achieving their cosmic goal. The Seraphon Spearhead contains 10 Saurus warriors, 3 Kroxigors, and a Saurus Old Blood on Carnosaur. These models are fantastic. The Saurus warriors and Kroxigors went through a redesign back in 2023, and they have never looked better. Even the Carnosaur, which is over 10 years old, still holds up today. The models are decently sized and very customizable. You can give the Saurus warriors clubs or spears, the Kroxigors have 2 weapon options, and the Carnosaur has 2 alternative builds as well. The scaly skin and defined muscles lends really well to slap chop and speed paint. You can get a real sense of shading and depth with very simple painting techniques which can be easily amplified with shading and edge highlighting. One of my favourite things about the new Seraphon models is they look amazing in any colour and pattern styles. You can get really creative with your colour palette of your choice, making them one of the most colourful and vibrant factions in all of AOS. Gameplay wise, the whole army is combat focused and reasonably tanky, so you don't have to worry about protecting weaker shooting units or heroes. The Carnosaur is big and a monster in combat, while the Saurus warriors are resilient and tough when contesting objectives you control. The Kroxigors are towering brutes with 6 health each and can completely demolish any enemy unit with 5 or more models. For the army's battle trait, you only have one thing to worry about, and it's used on your general. Every turn in combat, your general can choose to try and eat a weaker model by rolling higher than the unit's health characteristic, or it can choose to roar and reduce the unit's control score. So the Seraphon Spearhead has a very straightforward gameplay and strategy. Charge your reptiles into combat and watch them death roll the enemy. And by Sigmar, is it satisfying? It's always fun and exciting to see the Carnosaur just chomp on a Chaos Warrior Orc in combat. The thrill of rolling a 3+ on a d6 just unlocks something in the back of my lizard brain. Not only that, but the Kroxigors can also get crit 2 hits when fighting against units with 5 or more models. Rolling 6s on these guys with their maws that wound on 2s and have damage 2 is just brutal. If you peel back the raw primal aesthetics of the Seraphon, you'll find a deep, rich lore that rivals the wildest conspiracies. With a history that predates Age of Sigmar and is directly tied to the world that was, the Seraphon survived upon temple ships, spacecrafts that are living, breathing extensions of the Slan's geomantic power. They are infused with celestial energy, allowing them to effectively teleport and manipulate reality around them. What makes Seraphon even more kick-ass is their lack of complex emotions like fear, doubt, or personal glory, but are driven by more primal instincts and the directives of the great plan. They have an ingrained hatred of chaos and everything it represents, entropy, corruption, and anarchy. In essence, the Seraphon are the living embodiments of defiance against chaos. If the cold-blooded lizards are not cool enough for you, how about the next recommendation, the Ironjawz? These hot-headed, raging orcs are the embodiment of pure, unadulterated might of Gork. They value brutality and strength above all, with the biggest, the toughest, and the most violent of orcs leading their warbands to war. Their bodies are a testament to their dedication to combat, with their skin toughened by countless battles, their massive physique, and their unyielding will to fight. The Ironjawz are the artist of orcs and among the most formidable creatures in all the mortal realms. The Ironjawz Spearhead contains a Megaboss, 5 Brutes, 3 Brute Ragers, and 10 Arboys. A very good selection of different infantry warriors, with the Brute Ragers and Arboys being newly designed and released back in 2023. These models are chunky and have incredible detail in the armor and weaponry. They're very customizable and not too small or fiddly to assemble. The large surfaces of muscle and armor lets you slap chop and speed paint easily. The crude angular shapes of the armor lets you get creative with different color schemes and really pops with edge highlights. You can go even further and add tattoos or war paints to these models to bring out their warring nature. Similar to the Seraphon, the Ironjawz Spearhead is a combat-focused force that is even more tough and resilient. The army has an overall armor save of 3+, with the exception of the Brute Ragers. They have a 5+ save. The Arboys are tanky and like to get charged to trigger their anti-charge +1 rend ability, while the Brute Ragers on the other hand want to charge to get strike first and are a great target for the Mega Boss's Get Stuck in Lads ability to get extra attacks. When it comes to the army's rules, the Brutes don't come into play until the 3rd battle round, and you only have one battle trait ability to worry about, Mighty Destroyers. This unique ability lets you move a friendly unit up to 3 inches in any hero phase, letting you close the distance or tag enemy units in combat. It might feel strange at first, but after a couple of games you will quickly find out how to effectively use this versatile ability. The army requires a little bit more thought and planning compared to the Seraphon Spearhead, with each unit having a distinct combat role. But once you understand how the army functions, you feel like the god of war. It's rewarding when you smartly move a unit with Mighty Destroyers, or when you get a fully buffed up unit of Ragers to charge in and strike first. The Arboys are fun to use with their shield bash rolls, and once the Brutes come into play, it feels unfair when they can stop enemy units with health characteristics 1 or 2 from contesting objectives. Underneath the layers of pig iron and raw muscles, the Ironjawz lore and theme is simple, yet kinda fun. The armor and weapons they carry into battle is forged from pig iron, lumps of metal that are created from grunters after they have feasted on scrap metal and rocks. The iron is hammered into weapons of brutal destruction and armored directly onto their bodies. To be an Ironjawz orc is to live a life of perpetual conflict. When there is no external enemies to fight, they'll fight each other, their mounts, and even beat up the terrain around them. This constant conflict keeps them armed and ensures they continue to grow in size and strength. And how can we forget the War, a unique psychic energy field generated by orcs whenever they gather, especially when they engage in battle. It's kind of like a feedback loop. The more orcs there are, the more violent they act, and the stronger the War, which in turn makes them more brutal and destructive. The War courses through their bodies too, making them tougher and more resilient, removing any doubt and fear from their thoughts and replacing it with a zeal for destruction. So, do you have what it takes to follow the philosophy of Gork? Might makes right? If so, pick up the Ironjawz Spearhead, start speaking in a British Cockney accent, and be ready to shout War. And for the final recommendation, we have the Soulblight Gravelords. Vampires, necromancers, and legions of the undead. The Soulblight are the epitome of gothic horror in Age of Sigmar, with vampire lords and ladies ruling over kingdoms of the dead and preying on human cattle. Vampires are both ambitious and intensely prideful, constantly striving for personal power, territory, and an endless supply of blood to satisfy their eternal thirst. In the Soulblight Gravelords Spearhead, you have a mighty vampire lord leading 3 Vargeist, 5 Blood Knights, and 20 Death Rattle skeletons. The vampire lord and the Blood Knights look sick in their plate armor and vampiric aesthetics. The Death Rattle skeletons have gone through a minor update, making them easier to build than the older version, and they look amazing as well. The only slight letdown are the Vargeist that are over 10 years old, and in my opinion they look a bit derpy compared to the rest of the army, but I have high hopes to see a refresh for these models when its equivalent Flesh Eater's Court version gets updated eventually. You can also effectively paint these guys up with speed paints and contrasts, with the Blood Knights probably being the most challenging unit. The armor and barding have lots of raised and sharp edges that are waiting for you to edge highlight and dry brush over. As for their unique playstyle and rules, the vampires are aggressive and have the ability to heal themselves after they fight. The battle trait for the army is called the Hunger. This lets a vampire unit heal X, where X is the number of damage they deal in combat. Very useful ability to keep your vampire units alive for longer, which is pretty much all your units, bar the death rattle skeletons. Instead of healing after they fight, the skeletons can return slain models to the unit in your combat phase. You still need to roll a 5+ for each slain model to try to bring them back, but they are great at tar pitting enemy units and causing problems for your opponent. Blood Knights do some serious damage in combat on the charge, and the Vampire Lord is geared towards fighting other heroes with his Vile Transference spell. The army is strong and thematic, with each unit having a specific role or function. It's also quite versatile with the different regiment abilities and enhancements that pivots the army into various playstyles. Is it fun? Well, controlling legions of the undead and bloodthirsting vampires is diabolically fun. Blood Knights are just charging all over the place and over infantry units. Death rattle skeletons are constantly reassembling themselves and overwhelming the enemy forces, while the Vampire Lord is just being a total badass, slashing and draining the vitality of enemies with his magic. If you like vampires and all things gothic, the Soulblight Gravelords are a no-brainer, pun intended. Behind the unbeating heart of each vampire, there is a personal ambition shaped by their bloodline, their history, and the very nature of their curse. The lore of the Soulblight is fascinating. Powerful Mortarchs like Neferata and Manfred, who are constantly expanding their empire whilst trying to undermine each other through cunning, deception, and influence. It's like if Castlevania and Game of Thrones came together with lots of blood, death, and magic. If you have the thirst for blood and the will to dominate the land of the living, the Soulblight Gravelord is the army for you. So there you have it. Those are my 3 spearhead recommendations for beginners getting into Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Not all of you may agree with my recommendations, and you may feel drawn to a different army not mentioned in this video. Remember, the most important thing when picking an army is to choose one that you think looks cool and whose lore interests you the most. You'll be spending a lot of time building, painting, and playing with these models, so choose the army that feels right for you. With the Sand and Bone expansion right around the corner, this is a great time to start playing Spearhead, or if you already have, get a 2nd or even 3rd Spearhead army. There are 4 new Spearhead boxes coming out, which I can't wait to see how they play on the battlefield. Let me know in the comment section down below which Spearhead army you are most excited to try. If you found this video helpful, click that like button and share with your friends who haven't tried out Spearhead. Subscribe for more Age of Sigmar and Spearhead content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.